Everyone, BC government is looking into fines for people who engage in racist behavior. This was posted November 19th, 2019. And just as I was reading through this, I was just more and more shocked, and not that shocked. Like a mixture of course, that's what they're focusing on instead of all of this. And I'm going to show you. Let's go through this article because, yeah, let's focus on hate, shall we? While we ignore all of the other problems that are apparent in just BC. Here we go. The BC government is looking into whether people who engage in racist behavior can be ticketed. Delta North NDP MLA Ravi Colin, excuse me if I've got that wrong, has sent a letter to Public Safety Minister Mike Danforth formally requesting the province look into what powers the province has to crack down on racist and hateful behavior. Quote, I understand that some jurisdictions have implemented new non-criminal sanctions to deter this behavior, such as ticketing, the letter reads. I would be grateful if your ministry could determine what options might be available to better deter perpetrators. Kalan has been traveling the province to meet with people about hate and racism in BC. Okay, here's something that maybe they should look into more than hate and racism. Here's money laundering, funded $5.3 billion in BC real estate purchases in 2018, report reveals. This is from May of this year, 2019. So, this person knows about this, or they should, right? Here's billions in money laundering, increased BC housing prices, expert panel finds. This is, again, from May, just another article. I mean, if this person had looked up real problems in British Columbia, this may have popped up. But she's very focused on racism. Racism. Instead of the billions inflating our markets in real estate, let's focus on cracking down on racism. Back to the article. The letter comes as communities have noticed a rise in groups like Soldiers of Odin and the Yellow Vest movement, which drew criticism for attracting some members of the far right. Yes, let's not talk about anything to do with the Danforth shooter. And I mean, this isn't BC, but Soldiers of Odin and far right, this is not where the violence is coming from. I hate to be the one to inform this NDP person, this NDP minister, who seems so ill-informed, but the violence isn't coming from far-right Soldiers of Odin. In fact, most of the time, those groups have less than 25 members and get disbanded quickly because of the demonization in the media. Despite the fact that, well, they're often talking about politics, and I'm not saying that I support far-right people. I'm just saying that before 2017, or before 2018 even, I don't think I could have named a far-right organization. Now I can name Soldiers of Odin, and there's one out of Quebec that has a symbol, and I can't remember the name of it right now. It's a French name, but I've seen it a few times now in the newspapers. But before that, I couldn't have named a far-right organization in Canada. And we also, before 2017, 2018, didn't have random shootings every other weekend in Toronto, right? Like this is the reality, and what's being reported by the newspapers is not meeting up. They don't match. It's really, really disconcerting and really frustrating to watch this stuff. You know what I mean? And it's frustrating when the newspaper is supposed to be informing people and it's just misinforming people. Back to this. People are afraid in their communities. They know that these hate groups are organizing in communities. Collins said in an interview, my request to the Solicitor General was to do a scan of what other jurisdictions are doing to address public hate speech. Several communities also expressed concern to Collin. The new hate groups are establishing themselves in BC and are seeking legitimacy by registering as societies under the Societies Act. To address that, Collin is saying is asking the BC government to speak to the Canadian Security Intelligence Services, CSIS, about ensuring BC is doing everything possible to prevent the growth of these groups. See, right? Like as soon as it's like whack-a-mole. But I don't want to get distracted. It's interesting when, as soon as these groups even start organizing, the news or an MP, somebody's on top of them. Yet, here's the brother of the Danforth shooter. He's in a coma at Sunnybrook Hospital and will likely die there because of fentanyl. He had lots and lots of fentanyl. And when they looked into his apartment, they had 50 kilograms of fentanyl, enough to kill 50 million people. The population of Canada, by the way, just in case you're keeping track, is 37 million people. So they had enough to kill 1.5 times the population of the country. Yeah, right? It's really, really wild. I just wanted to be very clear here. I said 50 kilograms. It's 42 kilograms still. That's enough to kill 50 million people. So I didn't misspeak about the 50 million. I just thought it was 50 kilograms. But all of that said, we've got to focus on the hate, right? We've got to focus on hate speech, right? Oh, there's been 12,800 opiate deaths in Canada since January 2016? Do you think that if Mr. Harper had presided over that many opium deaths, the Liberals would have let him get away with that? Why do you think that Andrew Scheer was silent on that? I don't know. I have no idea. 12,800 people dying from opiate is incredible. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. And it just seems like this focus on hate and finding people. And they've even got, here's the last little bit, Canadian company compiling database of hate speech that may help others spot and stop it. This misguided focus on seeking out hate speech anywhere it might hide, but ignoring the money laundering, ignoring the fentanyl, ignoring the drug crime, ignoring the gun crime, unless you're talking about banning it from legal gun owners, right? You know, oh, we've got to crack down on that gun crime. You farmers keep coming and shooting up the place with illegal American guns, you awful people, right? Like it's very, very different than it used to be. And just noting it is wrong think these days. I guarantee you this video, oh, hello, Danforth shooter, this video will be demonetized. I know that. I already know that, right? And that's okay. That's fine. I do this because I enjoy this. But I do this also because someone has to point this out. The news didn't used to be this biased. The news didn't used to ignore things like money laundering in favor of hate speech, right? There was some measure of the public good and the public interest trumped this ridiculous pearl clutching, because that's what's happening. The news is pearl clutching and being ridiculous and pushing a narrative. And the narrative is, you hateful people need to get in line and stop asking about all this money laundering and other crimes because your hate speech is much worse. It's really, really frustrating. Well, thanks for watching my frustration. I apologize, but I appreciate you watching. Check out CanadaPoly.com, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, and have a wonderful, wonderful